Alrighty y'all, today we're going to be doing this little bag right here, and this is for the Kwik Sew K3526, and then of course it's going to be the bag pattern. The rest of them are scarves and hairbands. So let's get started. Okay, so Kwik Sew 3526, the bag pattern. I actually downsized my pattern. I'll show how to do that in another video or on my Facebook page. Make sure you do all the markings for the pleats and the darts on every piece. That's the lining and the outside. And I'm just showing the pieces here, but you can get your pattern and look at the pieces that you're going to need for this. I am not including the bow that is on this. I'm just doing the basic bag with the handles. So you know, that's all that's going to be in this. So anyways, so yeah, I'm just going over this right quick, and in case you have a question about the interfacing, I am using Pelon 950F interfacing. It's a really lightweight interfacing. It's the best for this. First thing I'm going to do is make these little darts in the bottom and the pleats in the top. And those pleats, when you do those in the top, the pattern says to do them going inward, so just make sure that the outermost pleat is going to be going towards the innermost pleat, not the other way around. I do think it'll make a difference in how your bag looks in the end, so make sure you do that. So I'm just lining up my darts and sewing on that line that I made with chalk there, and I'm going to do that on all 4 pieces of the bag, and I'm also going to do the pleats at the top. So you'll see me do that, and then I'll be back to explain the next step. And if you enjoy my sewing videos and my crafting videos, be sure to follow me on social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. So I'd love to be friends and share ideas and talk about my projects if you have questions or comments. And if you would like to purchase this bag that I'm making here, it will be available on eBay. Once this video is uploaded, it should be there. And just for a small price, if you want to place a bid on it and help contribute to me being able to get more materials. I am trying to work towards a new sewing machine. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my Viking here. It's an older machine and it's got some issues, so I am trying to acquire a newer sewing machine. Alrighty, so I'm just going to show you here what it looks like once you got all those pleats and darts sewn. You can see it's all there. I do not clip the excess fabric and the darts, and I think that the pattern instructions also said not to do that. I just wouldn't. If you want to, you can, but I don't recommend it. I think it's better to just keep them on there, you know. I don't know why, but I prefer to do that. If you want to trim them, you can trim that excess fabric, but I'm not going to do that with mine. Okay, so now I'm going to prepare that band, and I'm just going to iron on each piece of interfacing to each piece of band, and you're going to need 4 pieces as the pattern calls for. You see, I'm a little sloppy with my work, but I always trim things up and make sure it's nice and neat once I start putting it together. So no worries if you're a little bit of a sloppy crafter like me, you can still get it done right. This bag actually will turn out to be a really cute looking little bag. So anyways, I'm just going to iron all that on, and you do the shiny side facing the wrong side of the fabric, and that's how you iron them on. And I like to use a spray bottle instead of using my steam on my iron. I just don't like to do that. I don't know why. It's just a habit I always developed to have a spray bottle there. But if you have a steam iron, you can use the steam in your iron. And you see I'm scrapping pieces together. I was about out of that interfacing, but I made it work. So anyhows. Alrighty, so there's the band pieces. Now you'll see when I start to put mine together that I have a little excess on the ends, and that is because I did narrow my bag. It is not as wide as the pattern, and I can show you how to do that if you want to follow me on Facebook. I will have just a quick tip on how to do that. I may a first one and did a video, and I just was not happy with. I thought the bag was really big and I wanted to make a smaller one, so I did. So now I'm just with right sides facing together, folded over. I am sewing those bands on, and you'll see me do that, and then we will move on to the next step. And if it makes you feel more comfortable to do so, you can either pin or clip these pieces on so that they stay in place when you're sewing them. But I just find with things like this, especially since we put those pleats in the top, that it's better to do it by hand instead of pinning it, because sometimes pins can offset your project a little bit, and then you end up with a mess. You got to get your seam ripper out, or you got to cut a new piece. So I just prefer not to pin or clip things like this. So there you go. That is what the pieces are going to look like once they have the bands on them. And I know my interior of this is a little mismatched, but you know, I'm working with what I got, like I said, but I really love that outside fabric there. So now we are going to work on this zipper, and I am not doing this zipper the way that the pattern instructions called for it to be done, although the two pieces there that you see, the main pieces, I did cut those from the pattern piece. But I'm going to make ends on my zipper and make it a little easier to fold over and do that zipper pocket, because when I did it the first time, it was a disaster. I did not like it. I've never done a zipper method this way before, but that first one I did, like I said, it was an absolute disaster and I didn't like it. So you see here, I'm kind of marking where everything will be after the sides are folded, once everything's put together, and that's where I want to start my little pieces that I've got cut out here to put on the zipper. But first I'm gonna take my seam ripper, and be very careful if you do this. I'm just gonna take out all those little metal parts because I do not want them to get in the way and break a needle. Seems like every time I make a bag I break a needle, so if you do the same, don't fret. It's just what it is sometimes, and my machine is made to sew through thicker material and to do big jobs like that, but sometimes it just breaks a needle. So I'm marking those with the pin, and I'm actually going to put that piece of fabric on there, and I'm going to sew it on the line that I created, but I'm going to remove that pin once I get over there. You'll see me do that. There I go. I'm removing that pin. So I'm going to sew these little end pieces on each piece of the zipper, and you'll see that, and then I'm going to sew it per the instructions from the pattern, but mine, you'll see, will have those little end pieces, and in my opinion it just comes together so much better that way. I had a hard time folding over the sides because it's not lined. It's just what you see is going to be the zipper pocket, and then you're going to sew it to the inside of, or the lining of the bag. And this method, I practiced it once before I did it here, and I kind of felt like this was the best way to do it. So I mean, you can try my way, or you can try the pattern instructions. If you do it the pattern instructions way and yours comes out perfect, please let me know on my Facebook page. I'd love to see pictures of your finished bags, see how yours turned out. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get this zipper pocket done, and you'll see me do that, and then you can watch me struggle with getting it pinned to that bag. You do need to do this step after you've done your darts and pleats. You don't want to do it before because it might bunch up, and you just can't get the placement right if you do it before you do the darts and the pleats and the bag pieces. So keep that in mind, and be sure that this is going to be your step after that. And if you like that lovely outer fabric that I used on this bag, it was actually given to me a few years back from a company called My Fabric Designs. There will be a link in the description box below. I'm pretty sure they still have that fabric print. I absolutely love it. I have hoarded it. That was my last little bit of it that I used to make this bag, but they have some really great fabric. You can also create your own fabric on there. It's kind of like spoon flour, about the same price range. I just really enjoy My Fabric Designs because they did give me a stipend a few years back, and I enjoyed it. I still have a lot of pieces of that fabric, so whenever I use it, I will be sure to let you know in the video, and there will be a link in the description box below. So there we go. This is our finished zipper pocket. Now we just have to play around with getting everything folded over and pressed. I'm going to fold over about 1/3 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 an inch. And what I eventually did that I did not do on camera was I trimmed the ends of those zippers off because they were really hard to fold over. But if you do that method with the ends, the fabric ends of the zipper, it's not going to be hard to trim that off. You've got some seam allowance there. So you see that I trimmed mine off, and it makes it much easier to fold over. So anyways, I'm going to do that, and then you can watch me in sped up time lapse, or whatever the right word is, struggle with pinning it onto the inside of the bag, and then I'll just sew it all the way around and it'll be ready. So in real time, pinning this zipper pocket on took me approximately 10 minutes, which is a pretty long time when you think about you're just putting a few pins in something. But I wanted this to be I wanted it to be somewhat perfect because I do want to sell the bag. I just have so many things that I make, and I've got a collection of them, and I think it's time for me to start selling my finished products, and that will help me to get more money to buy a sewing machine, fabric, all the supplies I need to continue to put out videos for you gals and guys. So anyways, and I am really pretty pleased with the way this pocket turned out. It was a much better method for me. It wasn't bulky and awkward like the first one that I did. And you know, everything went pretty smooth once I got it all together and pinned down. So there you have it. Okay, so I modified my straps as well, and the reason that I did that is because, like I said, this was the last little bit of this skull fabric that I had. So what I did was the strap piece, the pattern piece in this pattern was fairly wide, so I cut the whole piece out, folded it over long ways and cut it long ways, and then I used some black fabric for the backing, and I sewed it right sides facing together, turned it out, and that's how I got my straps. So I kind of like them a lot better. I like the way they look. They're lightweight, but they match everything, so I think that's important too. But yeah, never worry if you're about to run out of fabric. You can always make it work. I made it work with the very last little bit of the skull fabric I had. I think I have one little piece left. I refuse to throw it away, but it's probably not even 3 by 3 inches, but I know I'll find a use for it someday. And also, I forgot to mention that I folded the bag after I had it put together, the band put together, and marked the middle. And from the middle, I marked 3 inches from on each side of the middle, and that's where I decided to put the straps. And I put the straps inside of that mark on the 3-inch mark on each side, if that makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the bag together. Now I'm going to pin right sides facing together, making sure everything's lined up. And when you get to those darts around the bottom, you want those to be facing inside the bag, not outside. And you'll see that when they face inside, they actually kind of fit. They don't, the bottom edge doesn't hang off or anything. I think that's the way it was meant to go. And you'll see I'm sewing in a little deep on that top band, and that's because I have not trimmed that excess that I had hanging off the sides yet. But you want to do about a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around, and you see I'm holding my darts down there and making sure that they're facing inward. And when you do the inside of the bag you want to leave an opening so that you can turn it, because this is going to be a sew and turn, and then you'll sew that opening closed. So you see there I've marked my opening about 3 or 4 inches wide enough to get my little chubby hands in. So I'm going to sew all the way around those sides and leaving that edge open. So I was using 2 cameras to film the making of this bag. One of the batteries died, and the battery died in one of my cameras, so you'll see the overhead view here, and I'm sorry if it's not as visible as it should be, but anywho, you still get the idea. I'm sewing all around, and once I'm done with that, then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so if you've watched any of my videos in the past, what do we do when we have a rounded edge on something like this that we're going to turn? We clip around the rounded edge. You do not want to clip the seam, you just want to clip close to it so that that rounded edge goes nice and smooth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put put it the right way. I'm going to put right sides facing together with the wrong side of the bag, the lining of the bag on the outside, so that it's easier to reach in there and turn that once I have this sewn. So I'm going to very carefully go around that top edge, and you want to make sure that your straps are laying flat when you do this. Remove that free arm from your machine if you can, and it makes it a lot easier to do this part. So here we go. We're just going to sew all the way around, and then we're going to turn that bag out. So I do want to apologize, there seems to be a missing clip, but at the end here I will turn this bag out, and I just make sure that opening is pressed with the seam allowance inside, and I just sew it with my machine. I don't do any hand stitching or blind stitching for a bag like this, because it, you know, as long as everything is neat and you have enough seam allowance there, you can just sew that with your machine and leave it like that. But anyway, here comes the finished bag. So there you go. Okay, so I do hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial for this little bag. This is the finished bag right here, and it will be available on eBay. I think I'll do an auction for it. Like I said, trying to raise money to get me a new sewing machine, so I appreciate any help that you all can give me, and I do prefer that you buy something from me, because I don't like to ask for handouts. So yeah, so peace y'all, bye bye.